Chain restaurants are everywhere. They're convenient, familiar, and often the default choice when you're on the road or don't feel like cooking. But let's be honest, not all chains are created equal. Some of them cut corners so aggressively on food quality, service, and cleanliness that you walk out wondering why you even bothered. We've all been there, paying good money for a soggy burger, rubbery pasta, or a plate of food that looked better in the menu picture than it does in real life. And yet these chains keep expanding, relying on name recognition instead of delivering meals that are actually worth your time and money. But here's the twist. Not every chain is a disaster. In fact, a couple of them are doing it right, serving fresh food, treating employees better, and offering consistency that feels rare in today's dining scene. So today, we're breaking it down. Here are 7 chain restaurants you should avoid at all costs, and the 2 that are actually worth it. Let's start this list with a chain that's practically everywhere, Applebee's. For decades, it branded itself as America's neighborhood grill. But for a lot of people, the only neighborhood feeling you get walking into an Applebee's these days is disappointment. The biggest issue, inconsistency. One location might serve you an okay burger, while the next hands you something that looks like it was microwaved straight out of the freezer. The menu is enormous, but somehow everything manages to taste the same, salty, oily, and bland all at once. One diner described it perfectly. It's like food designed by committee, nothing offensive, but nothing exciting either. Then there's the atmosphere. Applebee's tries hard to be casual and family-friendly, but the vibe often feels tired. Sticky menus, dim lighting, and that same corporate decor you've seen 100 times. It's not offensive, it's just boring. And when you're paying restaurant prices, boring shouldn't be on the menu. Value is another issue. For what you spend at Applebee's, you could go to a local diner or a smaller chain and get fresher food made with more care. It's not the absolute worst chain in the country, but it's become the poster child for mediocrity. And that's why Applebee's kicks off our list at number 7. Next up is a chain that built its empire on endless breadsticks and bottomless salad bowls. Olive Garden. For years, it's been marketed as family-style Italian, but anyone who's ever been to a real Italian restaurant knows the truth. This is Italian food in name only. The biggest problem is the food itself. The pasta is almost always overcooked. The sauces are overly sweet or way too salty, and everything tastes mass-produced. Alfredo should be creamy and rich. At Olive Garden, it often comes out gloopy and heavy. Their signature breadsticks, sure, they're free and endless, but they're also bland sticks of dough brushed with garlic salt. One reviewer put it bluntly, if carbs had a low point, it would be Olive Garden breadsticks. The menu tries to feel authentic, with names like Tour of Italy, but in practice, it's frozen entrees reheated and plated. The flavors lack depth, the textures are off, and nothing feels fresh. Then there's the value. A plate of pasta that tastes like it came from a microwave shouldn't cost nearly as much as it does. You're better off buying a box of noodles and a jar of sauce at the store. You'll spend less and probably enjoy it more. Olive Garden isn't the absolute worst chain, but it's become a symbol of watered-down corporate Italian food. That's why it lands at number 6 on our list of chains to avoid. Sliding into the number 5 spot is a chain that tries to do it all, but doesn't quite get any of it right, Chili's. On paper, it's the ultimate casual dining spot. Tex-Mex, burgers, ribs, margaritas, but in reality, Chili's often delivers food that feels more like reheated leftovers than a freshly cooked meal. The biggest problem is quality. The ribs may be famous in commercials, but at the table they're often dry, chewy, or drowning in overly sweet sauce that hides how bland the meat really is. Burgers and fajitas arrive looking colorful, but the flavors don't match the presentation. One customer described it best, it feels like eating a microwaved version of a decent idea. The menu itself is massive, and that's part of the issue. When a kitchen tries to juggle Tex-Mex, burgers, pasta, and seafood, nothing gets the care it deserves. The result is food that's fine at best, disappointing at worst. Service and atmosphere can be just as hit or miss. Sometimes you'll get friendly staff, other times you'll wait 20 minutes for cold fries. Either way, the vibe often feels more rushed and noisy than relaxed. For the price, you could get fresher Tex-Mex from a local spot or a better burger from a smaller chain. Chili's isn't the worst dining experience you'll ever have, but it's far from the best. And that's why it lands at number 5 on our list. At number 4, we've got a chain that built its reputation on fun vibes and casual dining done right. TGI Fridays, the red and white stripes, the wall clutter, the oversized cocktails, it all screams good times. But when it comes to the food, reality doesn't match the marketing. The menu looks exciting at first. Loaded potato skins, sizzling fajitas, Jack Daniel's glazed steaks. But when the plates hit the table, it's often a letdown. The appetizers are greasy, the entree bland, and the glazes usually taste like bottled sugar sauces poured on top to mask average ingredients. One diner summed it up perfectly. Fridays taste like it's trying to impress you, but it forgot how to cook. Then there's the atmosphere. What was once fun and energetic now feels dated and loud. The decor hasn't aged well, and the vibe often leans more chaotic than casual. Add in sticky menus and inconsistent service, and it's not exactly the warm welcome people expect. The value is another issue. For the price of a Jack Daniel's steak, at Fridays you could head to a local steakhouse, or even a decent burger bar and get fresher, higher quality food. Instead, you're paying extra for branding and nostalgia. TGI Fridays isn't completely unredeemable, but in today's dining world, it feels tired, overpriced, and underwhelming. That's why it earns the number 4 spot on our list of chain restaurants to avoid. In third place, we've got a chain that many of us grew up with for late-night pancakes and cheap breakfasts. IHOP. On the surface, it sounds great. Stacks of fluffy pancakes, endless coffee refills, a menu big enough to cover any craving. But once you dig in, it becomes clear why IHOP makes this list. The pancakes themselves? Surprisingly bland. They're often dry, rubbery, and rely on syrups packed with corn syrup and artificial flavors to make them appealing. The variety of toppings, blueberry, strawberry, chocolate chip, can't disguise the fact that the base pancake isn't that good. One diner said it best, IHOP pancakes taste like sponges wearing costumes. The rest of the menu doesn't fare much better. Omelets are greasy, burgers are forgettable, and even the coffee, a breakfast essential, is weak and watery. Add to that inconsistent service, long waits, and sticky tables, and the experience goes downhill fast. Another issue? Value. For what you pay at IHOP, you could visit a local diner and get fresher, heartier food made with actual care. Diners also tend to feel more welcoming and less chaotic than the cookie-cutter IHOP vibe. IHOP might still be popular for late-night crowds and nostalgia, but if you're looking for quality food and a satisfying breakfast, there are far better options. That's why it lands at number 3 on our list of chain restaurants to avoid. At number 2, we've got a chain that's more famous for its branding than its food. Hooters. The wings, beer, and sports formula sounds unbeatable, but in practice, the food rarely lives up to the hype. Let's start with the wings. They're supposed to be the star of the show, but too often they come out small, soggy, or drowning in sauce that tastes more like sugar and vinegar than actual spice. For a restaurant built around wings, it's disappointing to hear so many customers describe them as average at best. The rest of the menu doesn't pick up the slack. Burgers, sandwiches, and seafood platters feel like afterthoughts, with little attention to flavor or freshness. Add in greasy appetizers and watery drinks, and it's clear the food isn't the main attraction. Then there's the atmosphere. What was once marketed as fun and cheeky now feels outdated and awkward. The concept hasn't aged well, and for many diners, the vibe overshadows the fact that the food just isn't worth the price. And speaking of price, Hooters isn't cheap. For what you spend there, you could get better wings at a local sports bar or a dedicated wing joint, often with a friendlier vibe and tastier food. That's why Hooters earns the number 2 spot on this list, a restaurant where the marketing is stronger than the menu. Taking the number 1 spot on our list is a chain that promises abundance, but often delivers disappointment. Golden Corral. The idea of an endless buffet, steaks, fried chicken, mashed potatoes, desserts, sounds amazing. But the reality? Quantity over quality every single time. The biggest issue is the food itself. With so many trays to keep stocked, Freshness is nearly impossible. Steaks sit under heat lamps until they're gray, fried chicken loses its crunch, and side dishes congeal into something unrecognizable. One diner described it bluntly. It felt like eating leftovers from a high school cafeteria, but with a bigger bill. Sanitation can also be a problem. With hundreds of hands grabbing utensils and kids hovering over dessert stations, buffets are notorious for being, well, less than appetizing. Add in the chaos of crowded dining rooms, and it doesn't exactly feel like a comfortable meal. Then there's the value illusion. Sure, it's all you can eat, but when most of the food is mediocre, how much are you really getting? You might leave full, but you won't leave satisfied. Local diners, barbecue joints, or even smaller buffets often do it better with fresher food, cleaner setups, and more care. Golden Corral may promise a feast, but it's a classic case of more not meaning better. That's why it lands at number 1 on our list of chain restaurants to avoid at all costs. First up on the worth it side is Chipotle. While not perfect, it's one of the few major chains that consistently delivers on freshness and customization. The big advantage is control. You watch your food being made right in front of you, and you choose exactly what goes in. Brown rice or white, black beans or pinto, chicken, steak, or sofritas. The toppings are straightforward, and you can build a meal that fits your taste or dietary needs. That transparency is refreshing compared to mystery plates at other chains. The ingredients also stand out. Chipotle leans into sourcing meat without added hormones and emphasizes real produce. Is it gourmet dining? Of course not. But when you compare it to reheated pasta or frozen burger patties at other chains, it feels like a huge step up. Another plus is consistency. Most Chipotle locations taste about the same, whether you're in California or New York. You know what you're getting, and that reliability is rare in fast casual dining. Value matters too. The portions are large, and while prices have crept up, you're still getting a hearty, customizable meal that doesn't feel like fast food. Chipotle isn't flawless, but compared to the chains we've already covered, it's actually worth your money. The second chain that earns a spot on the actually worth it list is Texas Roadhouse. Unlike many competitors, this chain focuses on doing one thing really well: hearty American food, especially steaks, served consistently. The star here is the steak program. Cuts are hand-cut in-house, and while it's not the same as a top-tier steakhouse, it's far better than the sad sirloins sitting in grocery store fridges or the overcooked steaks at other chains. Customers often praise the balance of quality and price. But it's not just the steaks. The warm rolls with cinnamon butter have practically achieved cult status, and sides like baked potatoes or green beans feel more homemade than the reheated fare you'll find at Fridays or Chili's. Atmosphere is another strength. It's casual, yes, but lively and family-friendly. The service is usually upbeat, and the overall vibe feels energetic without being stale or depressing. Value is where Texas Roadhouse really shines. You get a decent cut of steak, sides, and that famous bread basket for a price that feels fair. For many families, it's the one chain that feels like a treat without breaking the bank. For consistency, flavor, and bang for your buck, Texas Roadhouse earns its place as one of the few chains actually worth visiting. So, there you have it. 7 chain restaurants you'll want to avoid at all costs, and 2 that are actually worth your time and money. From bland pasta at Olive Garden to soggy pancakes at IHOP and the buffet, chaos of Golden Corral, the pattern is pretty clear. Too many chains rely on marketing, nostalgia, or gimmicks instead of focusing on quality food and real value. But the flip side is encouraging. Places like Chipotle and Texas Roadhouse prove that big chains don't have to be disasters. With fresher ingredients, consistent quality, and fair pricing, they show it's possible to scale without completely sacrificing taste or trust. To take away, you don't have to settle. Next time you're thinking about grabbing a quick meal, don't just fall back on the familiar logo you've seen 100 times. Look around. Sometimes the local diner or neighborhood spot will blow the big names out of the water. And if you're sticking with a chain, at least now you know which ones deliver and which ones to steer clear of. Your time, money, and taste buds deserve better than soggy fries and microwaved entrees. Demand more, and when you find the gems, stick with them.